The echo of the gavel thundered in the silent courtroom as Judge Richard Hall said, "The verdict stands guilty." Emily Carter clenched trembling hands, a storm of disbelief rising within. Laura Bennett whispered, "This cannot be the truth." But her eyes betrayed hidden shadows. Ryan Cooper leaned against the bench, eyes burning with restless anger, muttering, "They never wanted justice. They only wanted control." Daniel Hayes sat with folded arms, calm and unmoved, as though watching a play unfold. Victor Stone observed from the shadows, lips curving in a measured smile that never touched the eyes. Emily Carter's thoughts screamed at the injustice, replaying memories of tragedy and survival. A phone vibrated in Michael Reed's pocket, its cold hum slicing through the heavy air. Michael Reed said, "This isn't the end. It's only the beginning." Sarah Carter shimmered in Emily Carter's mind. A fragment of a laugh, a ghost of a smile. The haunting weight of the vanished one tightened its grip, and for the first time, truth felt both nearer and further away. Emily Carter sat in the dimly lit corridor, heartbeat echoing louder than footsteps. Michael Reed said, "We can't trust appearances, truth hides deeper." Laura Bennett leaned against the wall, her soft tone murmuring, "Pain lingers, but it can guide us." Ryan Cooper smirked bitterly, kicking at the floor, whispering, "Pain doesn't guide, it poisons." Daniel Hayes quietly observed, eyes fixed on the shadows, while Victor Stone's voice lingered in memory, dripping with calm authority. Sarah Carter appeared again in fleeting flashes, her laugh echoing like fragments of another life. The moment was tense, heavy with silent promises and unspoken dread. Rain began to fall outside, streaking the windows as Emily Carter whispered, "Why does truth slip away every time I reach for it?" Michael Reed answered, "Because someone powerful controls the silence." Laura Bennett gently brushed her coat, murmuring, "Silence can break if you strike where it hurts." Ryan Cooper pressed his sketchbook shut, muttering, "Or it can bury you alive." Daniel Hayes exhaled slowly, posture unwavering, yet his eyes flickered with hidden weight. Sarah Carter drifted in like the scent of rain, her pen-tapping rhythm echoing faintly. Outside, thunder roared, as if the storm knew the secrets within. The courtroom emptied, but the weight of the verdict remained. Emily Carter traced invisible patterns on the bench, whispering, "They buried us with lies." Laura Bennett leaned closer, voice low, "Then we dig for truth." Ryan Cooper rolled his eyes, muttering, "Truth gets you killed." Michael Reed glanced at the exit, saying, "Or it gets you free if you fight right." Daniel Hayes remained still, offering no word, only a glance that carried both loyalty and distance. Victor Stone's presence lingered in memory like a shadow stitched to the air. Sarah Carter's laugh echoed faintly, haunting yet tender. Night deepened, and the courthouse doors groaned as they shut. Emily Carter said, "I cannot breathe under this weight." Laura Bennett placed a steady hand on her arm, saying, "You are not alone, even when it feels like it." Ryan Cooper muttered, "Alone is safer." Michael Reed whispered, "Justice waits for no one. We must chase it now." Daniel Hayes stood silent, gaze fixed ahead, his mind veiled. Victor Stone's smile flickered in recollection, commanding and sharp-eyed. Sarah Carter hummed faintly like a forgotten lullaby, pressing against the fragile silence of the night. The night grew heavier as Emily Carter walked slowly down the courthouse steps, her mind consumed with fragments of the verdict. Michael Reed followed behind, saying, "Truth is buried beneath shadows, but shadows cannot last forever." Laura Bennett steadied her scarf, her voice soft yet layered, "You must allow yourself to breathe through the pain, for it will guide you." Ryan Cooper kicked at a loose stone, muttering, "Pain doesn't guide, it blinds." Daniel Hayes adjusted his jacket, whispering almost to himself, "Silence sometimes keeps the world steady." The presence of Victor Stone haunted the air as if his smile lingered in every darkened corner. Sarah Carter's faint hum threaded through the silence, pressing into Emily Carter's chest like an unanswered question. They gathered in a narrow diner across from the courthouse, steam rising from untouched cups. Emily Carter pressed her hands to the table, whispering, "This fight will consume us." Laura Bennett touched her arm, voice calm. Sometimes battles heal scars by revealing the truth beneath them. Ryan Cooper rolled his eyes, muttering, or they just create new scars. Michael Reed leaned forward, gaze unshaken, saying, "The truth is a weapon only if wielded at the right time." Daniel Hayes looked toward the door, silent but vigilant. Victor Stone's shadow of influence lingered in their minds like an invisible chain. Sarah Carter flickered like candlelight in thought, making every silence echo louder. Rain continued outside, as Emily Carter said, "Every truth we chase feels like smoke." Michael Reed responded firmly, "Smoke reveals the fire beneath, and fire always leaves a trail." Laura Bennett offered a small smile. "Then we follow warmth before it fades." Ryan Cooper tapped a sketchbook impatiently, muttering, "Warmth burns faster than truth." Daniel Hayes quietly drank coffee, gaze fixed on the storm outside. A faint voice of Victor Stone drifted through memory like velvet threads of control. Sarah Carter appeared again in the reflection of the window, her pen-tapping rhythm hauntingly in sync with the rain's beat. The silence between them carried a heavy decision waiting to break open. Emily Carter rose from her seat, whispering, "If we wait, truth will vanish again." Laura Bennett stood beside her, voice calm, "Courage is the bridge across fear." Ryan Cooper muttered, "Bridges collapse when fire touches them." Michael Reed placed money on the table, his tone clipped, "Then we build one stronger." Daniel Hayes remained last to rise, his silence heavier than words. Victor Stone's memory slithered through the room like smoke, calm and suffocating. Sarah Carter lingered in the glow of neon lights, her youthful laughter faintly cracking through the storm outside. The weight of the next step felt like destiny pulling them forward. They stepped outside into the storm. Emily Carter said, "The rain feels like judgment." Laura Bennett whispered, "Or perhaps cleansing." Ryan Cooper sneered, "Rain only hides the dirt until it dries." Michael Reed adjusted his trench coat, declaring, "Rain cannot wash away truth, but it can reveal footprints." Daniel Hayes gazed at the flooded street, expression unreadable, whispering, "Footprints fade quickly if you don't move." Victor Stone's power weighed over them like an invisible crown, unchallenged but inevitable. Sarah Carter shimmered once more, her humming rising with the thunder. They moved into the storm, knowing that justice demanded pursuit, even when the night itself opposed them. The storm raged as Michael Reed spread crime scene photos across the diner table, his voice sharp, "This missing piece proves someone has manipulated evidence." Emily Carter stared at the photos, whispering, "Every piece I touch turns to dust." Laura Bennett leaned closer, tone steady, "Dust carries fingerprints. They cannot hide everything." Ryan Cooper flipped through his sketchbook, muttering, "Fingerprints are easy to erase." Daniel Hayes observed quietly, eyes narrowed before saying, "But erasures leave deeper scars than truth." The shadow of Victor Stone haunted them, as though he had written every page himself. Sarah Carter flickered in the reflections of the rain-streaked window, her tapping echoing with the rhythm of the storm. Every face around the table revealed fear, suspicion, and the burden of what lay ahead. Michael Reed whispered, "Someone in this room has already betrayed us once." Emily Carter's hands trembled as she said, "We are supposed to trust each other, but trust is crumbling." Laura Bennett softly replied, "Trust bends, but it can be rebuilt if we hold it together." Ryan Cooper's voice cracked with sarcasm, "Or it shatters, and we bleed from the shards." Daniel Hayes remained motionless, his silence heavier than accusations. The presence of Victor Stone loomed like a shadow swallowing the corners of the diner. Sarah Carter shimmered briefly, her humming fractured and almost broken. The storm outside grew louder, mirroring the storm within their circle. Emily Carter rose suddenly, voice shaking, "We cannot sit in silence. The truth is slipping faster than the rain outside." Michael Reed answered, "Silence is their weapon. We must break it before it breaks us." Laura Bennett touched her sleeve, saying softly, "Breaking silence comes with cost, but the cost may free us." Ryan Cooper muttered, "Or it buries us deeper than we can climb." Daniel Hayes finally spoke, voice calm yet edged, Sometimes silence is survival, not betrayal. The image of Victor Stone lingered, his knowing smile etched into memory. Sarah Carter whispered faintly through the patter of rain, urging them to move forward. They moved from the diner into the alley, rain splashing against broken pavement. Michael Reed said, "The trail leads here. Someone erased the records, but traces remain." Emily Carter shivered, whispering, "Every erased truth feels like another wound reopened." Laura Bennett pressed her coat tighter, saying gently, "Even wounds can guide you back to the beginning." Ryan Cooper kicked a bottle aside, muttering, "Wounds only scar, they don't guide." Daniel Hayes walked ahead silently, eyes scanning shadows with quiet precision. The looming sense of Victor Stone hung like a storm cloud, as if he had walked here minutes earlier. Sarah Carter glimmered faintly in raindrops, humming as though leading the way. The group stopped at the end of the alley where a broken lock dangled from a rusted door. Michael Reed muttered, "Someone wanted this hidden but not hidden enough." Emily Carter whispered, "Every door feels like another test of how far we can survive." Laura Bennett's voice steadied, "Doors open to truth if you dare to push them." Ryan Cooper frowned, muttering, "Or doors trap you forever inside." Daniel Hayes pressed forward, placing his hand on the door, voice low, "Every trap leaves a mark, and marks reveal their maker." Victor Stone's presence coiled in memory, his influence heavy in the shadows. Sarah Carter's faint glow hovered near the door, urging them toward revelation. The rusted door creaked open into a forgotten archive room, dust heavy in the air. Michael Reed whispered, "These files were never meant to be found." Emily Carter ran trembling fingers along the shelves, murmuring, "Every page feels like a buried confession." Laura Bennett steadied her voice, saying, "Confessions weigh less when they are shared." Ryan Cooper muttered bitterly, "Confessions only destroy the ones foolish enough to believe them." Daniel Hayes lifted a file slowly, eyes narrowing. This was erased for a reason. The presence of Victor Stone pressed against them in silence, as though he had written every page himself. Sarah Carter's faint laughter whispered through the dust, urging them deeper into the truth they were not ready to face. Emily Carter opened a file and gasped, whispering, "This proves the evidence was planted." Michael Reed leaned closer, voice harsh, "The one who planted it was inside the investigation." Laura Bennett steadied her tone, "Betrayal cuts deepest when it wears trust's face." Ryan Cooper clenched his fists, muttering, "I told you none of this was real." Daniel Hayes' silence deepened, his gaze unreadable as his fingers lingered too long on the paper. Victor Stone's influence curled like smoke across their minds, tightening its grip. Sarah Carter shimmered faintly, her pen-tapping rhythm echoing like a warning. The discovery weighed like a storm pressing down on their chests. Michael Reed slammed the folder shut, declaring, "The real enemy has been steering us all along." Emily Carter whispered, "It was never strangers. It was someone we trusted." Laura Bennett leaned closer, voice trembling, "Trust is a mask that hides daggers." Ryan Cooper's face hardened, muttering, "You still think masks protect you?" Daniel Hayes finally spoke in a low tone, "Masks keep the world intact until someone rips them away." Victor Stone's presence thickened, his memory looming like a silent puppet master. Sarah Carter hummed faintly, as though pulling threads of truth together, making the revelation inevitable. The weight of betrayal filled the room with suffocating air. Emily Carter's voice cracked, "If the evidence was planted, then the guilty verdict was a lie." Michael Reed's voice thundered, "And someone here let it happen." Laura Bennett placed a hand on her chest, whispering, "Truth can heal if we dare to hold it." Ryan Cooper hissed, "Truth destroys faster than lies." Daniel Hayes' lips curled in a faint smile that quickly faded, his silence too deliberate. Victor Stone's shadow loomed larger, as though approving the fracture of their unity. Sarah Carter appeared more vivid, her laughter breaking the silence with a ghostly resonance. The fracture within their circle was no longer hidden, but bleeding into the open. The silence cracked when Ryan Cooper whispered, "It was him, wasn't it?" His eyes burned into Daniel Hayes, who stared back without blinking. Michael Reed growled, "Tell me now if this is your hand in their ruin." Emily Carter pressed her hands against her chest, whispering, "Please, don't let this be true." Laura Bennett looked between them, her calm breaking as her voice wavered. "Lies feel heavier than truth." Daniel Hayes finally spoke, voice calm but cold. "Sometimes the greater good demands sacrifice." Victor Stone's presence lingered in satisfaction, as though this was the twist he had orchestrated all along. Sarah Carter's image brightened, her face sorrowful, urging them toward confrontation. The abandoned archive shook with tension as Michael Reed shouted, "How long have you betrayed us?" Daniel Hayes' voice was calm but cutting. "Since the beginning, because silence preserves order." Emily Carter stepped back, trembling, whispering, "Order, built on lies, collapses in fire." Laura Bennett reached out, voice breaking, "Please do not let this be true." Ryan Cooper spat, "I always knew one of you would sell us out." The air thickened, shadows stretching as though Victor Stone was orchestrating the chaos. Sarah Carter's image grew brighter, her voice humming through the dust, urging them to face the truth no matter the cost. Emily Carter cried out, "You let them condemn the innocent!" Daniel Hayes' tone stayed unshaken. "Sacrifice prevents greater wars." Michael Reed slammed his fist on the table, roaring, "Justice is not sacrifice, it is truth." Laura Bennett whispered urgently, "Every lie corrodes us from within." Ryan Cooper muttered bitterly, "Corrosion was always there, now it just shows." The walls seemed to close in, as though Victor Stone himself was watching with satisfaction. Sarah Carter's faint figure drifted closer to Emily Carter, her presence a reminder of everything lost in silence. Michael Reed pulled a hidden file from his coat, shouting, "I found proof you destroyed evidence." Daniel Hayes' eyes narrowed, answering, "Evidence means nothing when truth is too dangerous." Emily Carter's voice cracked, "You buried us in lies to protect yourself." Laura Bennett whispered fiercely, "Protection is no excuse for betrayal." Ryan Cooper kicked at the wall, muttering, "This is why truth kills faster than bullets." The shadow of Victor Stone seemed to nod in silence, enjoying their collapse. Sarah Carter appeared brighter, her pen-tapping rhythm echoing like a heartbeat, guiding them toward final confrontation. Emily Carter lunged forward, pressing her hand on Daniel Hayes' chest, screaming, "You stole justice from us." Daniel Hayes' calm cracked for the first time. "Justice is a fragile illusion." Michael Reed growled, "Illusions kill. Truth survives." Laura Bennett's voice trembled, "We cannot heal with deception binding us." Ryan Cooper snapped, "Stop pretending. Truth was dead long before this." Victor Stone's echo filled the room, his influence tightening like invisible chains. Sarah Carter's glow intensified, her voice whispering, "Break the silence," urging them toward decision. The climax pressed on them like thunder ready to strike. Silence fell as Daniel Hayes admitted, "Yes, I betrayed you, but I did it to stop the storm that would have consumed us all." Michael Reed roared, "You became the storm." Emily Carter's tears streamed as she whispered, "Every scar I carry began with silence." Laura Bennett cried softly, "And silence has broken us forever." Ryan Cooper's voice shook with rage, "Then let fire burn away what silence has left." Victor Stone's satisfaction grew thicker, as if he had won long before this moment. Sarah Carter's glow flared one last time, sorrowful and radiant, sealing the moment in their souls. The courtroom was filled again, its silence heavier than the storm outside. Judge Richard Hall raised his voice. "The new evidence has shaken this trial." Emily Carter whispered, "Please, let truth breathe this time." Michael Reed's tone cut sharp, "The lies have been exposed. The truth cannot be buried again." Laura Bennett lowered her eyes, saying softly, "Even truth can wound, but wounds remind us we are alive." Ryan Cooper muttered bitterly, "Truth is a knife, and someone always bleeds." Daniel Hayes sat motionless, cold gaze refusing to break. Victor Stone's presence lingered in the gallery, his faint smile unseen by most. Sarah Carter shimmered within Emily Carter's mind, humming like a plea for justice at last. Michael Reed presented the files to Judge Richard Hall, declaring, "This proves the evidence was planted." Emily Carter gasped, whispering, "The chains may finally break." Laura Bennett sighed, "Breaking chains still leaves scars." Ryan Cooper muttered, "Scars remind you of every battle you lost." Daniel Hayes leaned forward, voice cold, "Battles are lost, so wars are won." Judge Richard Hall slammed his gavel, demanding silence. Victor Stone's smile widened in shadow, his power still palpable. Sarah Carter's faint laughter resonated through the air, like a final call for justice yet uncertain. Emily Carter stood, trembling voice rising, "You condemn the innocent, and I will not let this silence hold me anymore." Michael Reed shouted, "Justice must reclaim its ground." Laura Bennett whispered softly, "Truth demands a price." Ryan Cooper smirked, "And the price always feels like blood." Daniel Hayes answered coldly, "Blood keeps peace when nothing else will." Judge Richard Hall raised his hand, his voice booming, "The decision will be rendered." Victor Stone leaned back, serene in his hidden control. Sarah Carter glowed brighter, as though waiting for a verdict of her own fate. Judge Richard Hall's voice thundered, "The verdict is overturned. The evidence was false." Emily Carter broke into sobs, whispering, "Finally, freedom breathes." Michael Reed nodded, voice steady, "Justice has found its way back." Laura Bennett whispered with trembling voice, "Freedom feels fragile when born from broken trust." Ryan Cooper muttered bitterly, "This isn't freedom, just another cage." Daniel Hayes bowed his head in silence, his betrayal carved into memory. Victor Stone's shadow seemed to stretch further, his control undiminished despite the ruling. Sarah Carter's glow brightened, her soft laugh echoing like sunlight breaking storm clouds. The courthouse emptied under the weight of the ruling. Emily Carter whispered, "Justice feels heavy, like carrying both truth and sorrow." Michael Reed placed a hand on her shoulder saying, "Justice never walks lightly." Laura Bennett murmured, "Healing will take longer than verdicts." Ryan Cooper scoffed, "Healing is just a word for wounds we ignore." Daniel Hayes walked out slowly, his silence echoing louder than words. Victor Stone lingered in the shadows, his influence still poisoning the air. Sarah Carter's image faded slowly, her glow dissolving into silence, leaving them with both closure and unanswered questions. The courthouse steps glistened with rain as the group emerged into the night. Emily Carter whispered, "Justice feels like ash on the tongue." Michael Reed answered firmly, "Ash still carries the fire of what burned." Laura Bennett's voice cracked, "Fire may warm or it may destroy, and we cannot choose which." Ryan Cooper muttered, "Destruction is always the truest part." Daniel Hayes walked behind them in silence, his guilt a shadow no verdict could erase. Victor Stone watched from a distance, his calm smirk fixed, knowing his web still held. Sarah Carter shimmered faintly above the wet pavement, her laugh echoing one last time like a fading song. They walked through the storm-slicked streets, their silence carrying more weight than words. Emily Carter whispered, "We carried scars into the light, but the light burns too." Michael Reed muttered, "Light burns away the lies, that is its only gift." Laura Bennett softly said, "Even light leaves shadows where pain hides." Ryan Cooper smirked, "Shadows are the only honest place left." Daniel Hayes' head lowered, his silence a confession louder than speech. Victor Stone's reflection appeared in a passing window, his influence unbroken. Sarah Carter floated faintly beside them, her glow flickering like a candle in the rain. Emily Carter stopped under a broken street lamp, whispering, "Every truth we uncovered came too late." Michael Reed, said late truth, "still has weight." Laura Bennett touched her shoulder gently, murmuring, "Weight reminds us we survived." Ryan Cooper muttered, "Survival isn't living." Daniel Hayes finally spoke, "Survival is the only thing we had left." Victor Stone's calm aura pressed closer as though savoring their despair. Sarah Carter glowed brightly for a moment, her face sorrowful as if saying goodbye, her image beginning to fade with the rain. A siren wailed in the distance, echoing through empty streets. Emily Carter said, "Justice feels unfinished, as though it waits for another hand to break it again." Michael Reed muttered, "Justice is never whole, only stolen or reclaimed." Laura Bennett whispered, "Reclaimed pieces may still cut our hands." Ryan Cooper sneered, "Then let it cut, at least it bleeds honesty." Daniel Hayes' silence grew heavier, each step dragging with regret. Victor Stone's eyes gleamed faintly from the darkness, his calm control never shaken. Sarah Carter's glow dimmed, leaving behind only the faint echo of a hum in the rain. The group stopped at the edge of the river, the city lights flickering on the water. Emily Carter whispered, "The case is closed, but the wound is open." Michael Reed said, "Wounds remind us truth was never free." Laura Bennett sighed, "Even love cannot close wounds made by betrayal." Ryan Cooper muttered, "Then let betrayal scar us, at least we see it clearly." Daniel Hayes stared at the water, his silence eternal. Victor Stone's shadow stretched across the reflection of the river, his smirk endless. Sarah Carter's final glow shimmered on the water's surface, fading as though swallowed by the current, leaving only the echo of unanswered questions.